Hi guys, Mollusk here, and in this video I want to talk to you about an idea, a bit of fun really, for a new Malifaux game scenario, which I'm calling FauxBall. It's a game played with your foes, balls. So yeah, my promiscuous eyes have fallen on this other game, Guild Ball, and it looks really exciting and cool, and I really like some of the rules and some of the flavour of it. But I just cannot justify spending more money on another game and committing the time to learning a new rule system, at least not just at the moment. And in order to scratch the itch I have to play Guild Ball, but also cater to how much I love Malifaux and the way that system works, I've had a go at creating a scenario in which the rules of the two games, or at least the concepts of Guild Ball and the rules of Malifaux, blend seamlessly. I'm sure you'll agree. So as every game needs a bit of background to capture the imagination and provide a reason for, going through with it, gather round and listen as I waffle some garbage off the top of my head. There's a new craze sweeping through Malifaux, and that craze is for the fast-paced and brutal sport of FauxBall. Its origins are mysterious, but Guild Intelligence has it that it's an adaptation of an old Neverborn game, or ritual, in which rival Neverborn leaders kicked a gremlin against a tree as hard as they could to establish dominance. This ritual has been formalised into a game by some of the more enterprising Malifaux gangs as a method of settling disputes, and almost overnight has become hugely popular and highly illegal, attracting teams and spectators from all over Malifaux to compete for the prodigious prizes, whilst shady deals that underpin the fate of Malifaux itself are done in the background of the stands. Sticking to its roots, the game is still played with a live gremlin, and expeditions to the Bayou are becoming increasingly well funded as high prices are paid for the finest specimens. So now I'm sure I've got you hooked. Let's have a look at the rules. So it's pretty much henchman hardcore with a few differences. So we're using Malifaux's 2nd edition rules, 30 soul stones. The crew must be led by a henchman, and the crew must include a totem. Each crew or team must consist of exactly 6 models, including that henchman and totem, and any soul stones not spent during the hiring process are lost and can't be taken into the game, but you will still have your henchman's cash. Also, no summoning allowed. These games are intended to be quick and dirty. So how do you set up a game? Well, the game involves standard deployment. Generate the strategy and schemes as normal, but replace the strategy with the FauxBall strategy, which we'll get onto in a second. Each crew then selects one scheme from the pool generated, and the game lasts 5 turns. Was playing around with the idea of having it to a set number of VP, which I think is how Guild Ball works, but I'm going to go with this for now. So the FauxBall strategy has got a number of elements, and we'll go through bit by bit. So let's start with the setup. So not that it really matters what time you do this, but you've got to do it at some point. So after you've chosen your crews and revealed them, but before deployment, each crew places a 50mm height 8 impassable blocking goal marker in the centre of their deployment zone. Basically so that the tip of the marker nearest your opponent is touching the 6-inch line away from your board edge. Also place a 30mm FauxBall or gremlin marker at the centre of the pitch. And that spot where the FauxBall marker sits is considered height 0 impassable terrain. Basically, we don't really want it getting in the way too much of play, but we need that space free because the ball is going to return there when a goal is scored. So for this scenario, models gain some extra actions and abilities. So each model gains the following ability: on the ball, which allows them to target an unclaimed FauxBall marker within 1 inch and place it on their card. And I would highly recommend using a gremlin model for this ball. And it might be nice to keep this marker on the pitch as a bit of a aesthetic flavour, and we can watch it being punted around. But I decided that the placing the marker on the model's card mechanic just makes things a bit more simple. So each model also gains a couple of actions. First of all, we've got tackle. And this is an opposed duel using each model's height to represent the fact that big, beefy models are probably harder to get the ball off of, or have an easier time getting off of smaller, more puny models. So you target another model with the FauxBall marker on their card, within your engagement range, and so models with longer legs or longer weapons will have an advantage here. And if you win the duel and succeed the tackle, you get to place the Gremlin ball on your card. We also have the pass action, and I've got passing based on the willpower stat. And it's a fairly easy duel for most models, and it allows you to target another model. Doesn't have to be friendly, but you probably want it to be, within 8 inches in line of sight. And if you succeed, you can transfer the marker to your target's card. To stimulate the idea, you can lob models, or opposing or interceding models, or knock the ball through the legs. You can pass through enemy or friendly models, provided they're not completely blocking your line of sight, but the target number for the duel increases by 1 per enemy model whose base is between you and your target model's bases. Friendly models obviously can just allow the ball to pass. And the thing to note is these are tactical actions, so they can be taken at any time. And there's very few abilities in the game which prevent them, and that's important because we want the football element of this game to be important, rather than just all-out slaughter. And most of the rules I've come up with are along that line of thinking. So additionally, each non-peon model gets the following interact action. They can take a 1 action to take a shot, which is again based on willpower, with a harder target number, which I've just added in, cannot be cheated. So you can put yourselves on positives, but there's the element of risk in that you can't cheat it. To make things a bit interesting, I've given the range as the defense of the model. So you can have a really high willpower model with a good chance of scoring, but they've got to be pretty close to the goal. And vice versa, as many models in Malifaux tend to have a stronger willpower or defense stat than the other. Not all of them, but most of them. And I thought that would make it a bit interesting. So with this action you've got to target the enemy goal marker within line of sight, and the marker, as we saw before, is rather big. So even with some of the interesting terrain features like illusionary forests and stone pillars and ice pillars and fire walls and shit that models can dish out in Malifaux, but that can't stop you from making the shots. It can only just make it a bit harder, as I've just added in, making these rules up literally as I go along. So after you succeed, you place the marker in base contact with the target, which is the goal marker, and as we'll see later, that's how you score. And you increase the target number by 1 per any model or terrain marker directly between the model that's making the shot and the target. So some tactics come in here. You can have a model hanging back to try to defend your goal. Some things can create terrain and make it harder to score, I guess. You notice that it's an interact action, so models with Chatty are really strong and very good goalkeepers. You'll have to find a way to get around that. Additionally, models with Don't Mind Me would make quite good strikers. Lots of things to think about, and pushing and pulling, moving models around outside their activation is going to be super important in this game. Finally, we've got this other ability that all models gain called Volley. So when this model is the target of a successful pass action, if it can use soul stones, so this is pretty much your henchman leader, and in a few select special models like Korafi, you can spend a soul stone to immediately take a pass or shot action without spending AP, and this is to allow some cool goal setup combos. And a little bit like paying the momentum cost for a team action or whatever it's called in Guild Ball. So how do you score VP from the FauxBall strategy? Well, a crew scores 1 VP when the FauxBall marker is placed in base contact with the goal marker of the crew it considers an enemy as part of a shot action. So you can only score by taking that shot action. And then immediately after VP is scored from the strategy, we place the FauxBall marker back on the centre point of the pitch, gets it back into the action, gets round the lack of a scatter mechanic in Malifaux, and means you have to think about not only breaking through your opponent's lines to get into goal scoring range, but also controlling the centre and keeping your team together to try to stop the enemy from instantly breaking through and getting one back on you. You can score VP this way on any turn, including the first, and you can score multiple VP per turn if you can. And as per most strategies, you can score a maximum of 4 VP. An interesting little twist I've added is the red card rule. and this is to try to balance out the power of killing. In Guild Ball, when models are killed, they go off pitch and then you can bring them back in subsequent turns. And so whilst killing is very powerful, as you temporarily remove players from the pitch, so disrupt their formations and gain a bit of activation control that turn, it's balanced by the fact that they're a renewable resource. And I think that's quite a clever mechanic, but it's a bit too complicated for Malifaux. So unlike the pussies of Guild Ball, when a Malifaux player hits you, they're not pulling any punches, and you're not getting back up. So as you remove enemies, it gets much easier for you to score and get VP from your schemes unopposed. So why not just kill all your opponents and stand around the goal belting the Gremlin at it for the rest of the game on your own. The red card rule is why. As I said, I want to bring the focus a little bit more into football, and though killing will be powerful, I need to rein that in a bit. So at the end of each turn, if a crew kill 2 or more enemy models on that turn, deduct 1 victory point from that crew. And breaking from usual Malifaux rules, this can mean that crews can actually be on negative victory points during the game. The reason I've done that is so that you can just make sure you don't score anything. Take a really killy crew, take a scheme that you score only at the end of the game, slaughter your opponent and don't care about losing any points. This way, whatever you do, you're paying that penalty, and it should be that you will lose 3 victory points in total if you wipe out the enemy crew. And at the end of the game, if you somehow manage to score negative victory points, we just treat it as 0 for the purposes of scoring. So that sorts that all out. I like this because obviously you've got to kill models. That chatty goalie, or to think of the worst case, Nino with his spotter ability, they have got to go. I mean, you can get around it peacefully by blocking line of sight or pulling models out of the way. But yeah, some threats you've just got to put in the ground. But you've got to be careful about how many you do and how aggressive you go at it. I'm not entirely sure I've got exactly the right balance. It's possible this is still a little bit forgiving on killing, given how strong it can be, and it might be better to have it that you lose a VP for every multiple of 2 enemies you kill, but I think we'll go with that for now. Notice also that you can totally obey an enemy model to kill one of his mates and get away with it scot-free. The refs don't care, and obey is an action that's going to be great in this game as well, just in general. So there we go, guys, just a bit of fun seeing how we might import a Guild Ball-like game into Malifaux. I've got no idea whether I'll actually get around to playing this. I certainly haven't playtested it or really thought very hard about it at all. This has all been super off the top of my head. No idea if 30 Soulstones is the right limit. It seemed to be, but I'm sure there's some disgusting broken combos that don't balance right. It's all just a bit of fun. I'd like to think I'll give it a go, maybe even have a tournament day at Darksphere, if there's enough interest in giving it a go. Or maybe it just ends up being just this evening, finding an outlet for a game that I, quite want to play, but can't justify and don't want to leave a system I love to do it. And it has been fun to think about, so who cares? Anyway, take care and I'll catch you later.